Hey everyone, April Patrick here on the next episode of Don't Stop Storytelling. I don't know what's up with the mood lighting. There's something wrong with my laptop, so this is not intentional, but it works, right? Um, Today's episode is about making do. Now, there's a southern term that a lot of, in case you don't know this, a lot of people from the Midwest have migrated, their families have migrated from the South. And it's something my grandmother used to say. She used to say when we were younger, she said, "Oh, it's easy to spend money, but you got to know how to make do. You have to also know how to make do, right?" And as filmmakers, that's really important. If you're really the best, the most scrappy filmmakers have made the most phenomenal films. And I remember once I was shooting a friend's film in film school, and um, she was shooting a music video, and she'd broken up with someone, and it was this big emotional kind of, it was an emotional sort of a tribute. Um, and she was doing a tribute. The music she was using was Sade's Cherish the Day. And I remember that she wanted snow. And we're like going down this train platform. We couldn't figure it out. So we got cotton balls. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I light cotton balls? How do I do in camera? So we didn't have a budget. So how do I do some of this in camera, these in camera tricks, right? So that basically you can make it look like it's snowing. So we're figuring this out. We're trying all this stuff. And we're running it in black and white using like I don't remember what film stock at the time, but it was a black and white film stock, and it was one of the early filmmaking classes, and it was just like, it seemed like, okay, well, it kind of kept doing it till it worked, and then we came back and to see it on the big screen, and people were just like, they went nuts because I was like, oh my gosh, we saw it in post and it was like, oh, like this is kind of moody. It worked with everything, slowed the camera down, everything else, and we're doing all this, inventive, filmmaking, and people loved it. It just was a huge success. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe!" A lot of people started asking me to shoot after that. They were like, they liked the contrast and everything, but it was just like we made do, right? So the thing is that we're in the perfect era for people to make do. This is like the perfect time. The cameras, the technology is like in your, it's in the palm of your hand. You're not lugging around or having to rent cameras. You can, if you want to go large scale. But one of the best producing teachers taught me years ago to always have three budgets for your film, right? You go all the way out. Like you're writing a story, you go all the way in. You figure out like the biggest and the best that you can do it, but also keep two other budgets in mind, like a lower studio budget and like an independent, like if I just had to shoot this, if I just wanted to shoot it for myself, then, how could I do it? How could I make do, right? And well, that's one of the larger lessons that I feel like we learned as filmmakers, like thinking, oh, I'm going to make, not that we're making studio films, but I think I've got 25,000, 35,000 for this film, or I have $1,500 and I'm trying to figure out the film stock costs $1,500. It's so many frames per second and post, and you're trying to put everything together, and you're trying to figure out how to make do. But it's one of the greatest lessons because it either makes you or it breaks you, and you can either stop making films or you can continue on mixing formats and textures and coming up with really inventive ways to solve the problems that lead you to being able to tell your story. So now is a time where people can, they've got like, even I have a Black Magic camera that shoots in digital 35, right? Or Super 16. Yeah, I have a couple of them. But anyway, like the thing is that there's so many things that you can do now in the comfort of your home. And with like smaller equipment, we used to have to carry how much stuff. Like we had the arms would be cut from, having all the things that you needed, all the filters, all the lenses, all the post, renting an Avid and all these things. And now it's at your fingertips. But still, the thing is that even with the ability to quote unquote make do, you still want to be intentional with how you do it. So it doesn't have, just because you made it inexpensively doesn't mean it has to be cheap. You can plan better. They say that necessity is the mother of invention, right? But failing to plan is also planning to fail. So the thing is I think that you can do phenomenal things on a tighter budget, cut the story down, focus on the central character, create that character, allow that character to have an A, B, C, and D storyline instead of that character and all the other characters and all the other things. Get down to the spine of the story and look at what truly can be engaging. What can, why do we care? Look at what is actually entertaining for, whether it's 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 hours. do all the preparation. Still do all the preparation on a smaller scale. Maybe you're using your friend's apartment or your apartment instead of renting a rehearsal space, or you're bartering for something, or you're bartering to shoot something for, let's say, another space, and you're shooting with a film, photography, whatever, video, and then they're allowing you in exchange to use that same space for rehearsal space or production space. There's a lot of ways to partner with people to make sure that you get a win-win out of it, that you win and they win. They get something out of it, and they get some sort of expertise or something that you have, or they're able to do in-kind donations. There's so many ways to quote unquote skin a cat, right? So don't limit yourself in terms of your creativity. Think big, be big, but also realize that I can still do it on a budget. One of my favorite lessons, even as a young woman, and a lot of these came from my grandmother and other matriarchs, was like, I remember, and this is going to tell you how old I am. She would give me like a small amount of money and say, oh, go out and buy yourself something. I'd be down. Go out and buy yourself something. It was like a minuscule amount. I would come back with a little tube of lipstick, come back with some nail polish, something. But it did a lot for my self-esteem and for the mood that I was in. And it wasn't really about the thing that I was buying. That it wasn't about it being like a Gucci lipstick or something like that. It was the fact that I was taking care of myself, and that my turned my focus from my problem to my solution, which was inward. So with that said, don't stop storytelling. You already have everything you need. You are the solution, and you can do it. You can do it. You can come up with a solution that is going to solve the problem for the production for that day, that month, that week, that year. So don't stop. Take care.